Welcome back to the Hannahcast YouTube channel, and today I'm going to be giving you my picks if I were an Oscar voter. Now, this should be pretty self-explanatory. Let's just say I were a member of the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences and I were able to vote on the Oscars. These would be my picks, alright? This is not me, trying to say like, oh, I like this, but I wouldn't actually vote for it. I would do it a different way. It's like, no, I don't see it that way. If I want my favorites to win. And so if I were an Oscar voter, these would be my votes. Now, granted, I have not seen all of the international films. I've only really seen the Zone of Interest. I haven't seen any of the short films or documentaries. So let's just say I'm abstaining from voting in those categories. Because apparently I think you can do that in the Oscars. But for every other category, I have seen every film. So we're going to start with Best Picture. Now, actually, for Best Picture, it's interesting because it's ranked choice voting. Basically, what it is, it's a preferential ballot. You put your number ones at the top, and you sort of go down the line. Like, basically your top 10, like, how would you rank these films? Because that's how a preferential ballot works. And I guess I'm gonna go from the bottom to the top. The film I would least want to win Best Picture is actually Poor Things. I recently saw that film and, yeah, not good at all. I was really excited to see this movie, but I just found Poor Things to be so painfully unfunny, way too long for its own good. And there are people trying to make things like, oh, it's just like, this movie is just saying that, if a woman, wants to, make money by having sex, she's throwing away her body. It's like, no, that's like, no. I don't like the movie, and even I don't view it that way. I just don't think it's a very funny movie, and because it's a comedy that, like, it's weird. It's sort of like my problem with Everything Everywhere All at Once, where it's just like, it's a comedy that I just don't really find funny. So when the more dramatic parts of the film, sink in, it doesn't really affect me that much because the comedy didn't really let me connect with these characters. So that would be the bottom ranking film in my list. Then we would have Maestro, which the fact that Poor Things is the only film I didn't like from this list is pretty spectacular because, I actually quite enjoyed Maestro a lot. I didn't love it, but it's still a very, very good film. I thought, all the performances were spectacular. The cinematography was brilliant. It's just, for me, like, one of the reasons why I don't really love it as much as everyone else. Or granted, I don't know, maybe I think it's underrated in a sense. I don't know. But, like, there wasn't really much of a central conflict other than what was going on in the relationship. And people were trying to compare this to, like, The Theory of Everything. But I would argue The Theory of Everything kind of had more going for it in terms of a conflict. And that was the deterioration of Stephen Hawking's body. Whereas with with Maestro, it wasn't really anything like that. It was kind of just like this vague relationship drama that we still didn't really dive deeply into, and it kind of made for more of a portrait of the people rather than like an examination of the people. And then from here on out, the rest of these films are great. Like, they're fantastic. Despite the fact that I have Anatomy of a Fall at number 8, it's still a pretty great movie. Like, its screenplay and its editing are easily highlights. And of course, Sandra Hüller is fantastic. Milo Machado Grater was fantastic. The dog was fantastic. Oh, like, everyone in this movie is fantastic. It's a movie that legitimately keeps you guessing as to whether or not this woman was guilty of committing murder on her husband. And you kind of don't really know what's going on, and because at one point you're thinking, no, she didn't do it, but then the movie starts going on. It's like, wait, maybe she did do it, but that's like, wait, did she do it? It's like the movie just keeps you guessing, and it's like, I really like that. And so, yeah, Anatomy of a Fall, it's at number 8, but that's not me saying it's like anything less than fantastic. It's just it's a really hard list to pick from. Number 7, I would have American Fiction. American Fiction is, again, a very smart comedy. I really, really like the writing in this movie. Jeffrey Wright is absolute perfect casting as the main lead, and the movie's, commentary on how white people view black people in media and the way this movie satirizes that is so funny. The satire is just hilarious, and even like the family drama actually makes for a good, what's the word I'm looking for? Like a juxtaposition of the other story. And I'm not gonna lie, when it comes to the whole thing about the main character, climbing his way to the top, even though he doesn't really want this to happen, like every time he tries to screw himself over with this book, like he only gets more successful. I like that. I like that the world is just so stupid around him and he's just accidentally becoming successful and he doesn't really know what to do with it. Like, it's really funny that way. Then at number 6, I have Killers of the Flower Moon. Killers of the Flower Moon, I mean, what can I say about this film that hasn't already been said? I mean, my God, like, what Martin Scorsese did with this kind of story and the way he told it from the indigenous Americans' perspective, for the most part, is very clever. The final scene in the film is very powerful. Number 5 is Past Lives. This is a film that could very easily be boring for me because slow-paced movies, or not even slow-paced movies, but like pretty slow movies in general, like they run the risk of losing my interest very fast. And luckily Past Lives does not do that. Past Lives is so meticulously directed. And I mean that when it comes to the directing, I mean, yeah, the writing is great, the performances are great, but there are like very subtle directing choices that I really picked up on in this film. Mainly with a like webcam conversation, and it's like, oh my God, the way like things are kind of cutting and the way things are shot, it's like this is all like actually very clearly communicating something that these characters are going through. It's so clever. So yeah, like Past Lives, absolutely wonderful. Speaking of wonderful, we have The Holdovers at number 4. I mean, it's impossible not to like this movie. I mean, everyone loves this movie. Even like my God, if this does not become a Christmas classic in the future, I don't know what will, because I thought this film was just so smartly written. All these performances are so good, and easily one of the best like feel-good movies of the past few years. Like, my God, like you really do come out of this with a smile on your face, feeling good for humanity. And it's like, I really, really love The Holdovers. Then at number 3, we have Barbie. I really thought Barbie was I was already very excited for Barbie because Greta Gerwig was writing and directing it, along with her husband, Noah Baumbach, in the writer's chair. But my God, this is her best directorial effort yet. Like, my God, like I loved Lady Bird and Little Women, but admittedly, like, I thought those were more like screenplay movies than directing movies. Because it's like, the writing kind of, like, I don't know how to describe it. It's like, nothing really, like, it's not that they were badly directed, no. But it's like, they kind of felt like they were more, screenplay driven. There's not really much of a full-on vision going on in there. But with Barbie, oh, the vision is all over the place. Like, this is truly a director's movie. Which is why I don't know, granted, I kind of expected Barbie to miss for directing, but it's like, it should have gotten directing, because, again, the directing in this movie is fantastic. But also, like, the commentary of this film, the absolute way this movie will go goofy and silly is just really, really funny. The production design, the costume design, all that stuff is phenomenal. And so, yeah, that's why Barbie would be my number 3. At number 2, The Zone of Interest. I did not expect I would love The Zone of Interest as much as I did. Like, I was worried, because remember when I said about Past Lives where it's like slow movies have like a 50-50 chance of being extremely boring to me? Oh my God, everything about The Zone of Interest should make me just completely bored out of my mind, because it's really like a sort of slice of life story in a way, but my God, this movie actually kept my full attention and honestly kind of like my heart pumping in fear throughout the whole runtime. I mean, my God, like the sounds you hear in the background, it's like, ugh. And then the ending. Oh my God, the ending of that movie is so terrifying. I probably suggest watching the Oscar Experts video on the Zone of Interest, and like his explained video, because I feel like that film, like that video explains it way better than I ever could, because I'm really, really stupid. But God, the Zone of Interest is a film that I'm going to be remembering for a long, long time, and how terrifying it is. And yet we don't even see anyone die. Like, that's a crazy thing. And then at number 1, at the highest of my Best Picture rankings, since this is a preferential ballot, would be Oppenheimer. I mean, again, Oppenheimer. Again, what can I say about this film? Everything about this film clicked for me. I love the size of this film. I love how this film is a 3-hour-long biopic with dudes in suits, and yet it's just so engaging. Christopher Nolan is, like, at the height of his game. Like, my God, he does a phenomenal job directing this film. The music is great. The acting is terrific. Like, the cinematography, the editing, the sound design. Oh my God, the sound design is so good. I genuinely don't know what else I can bring to the table when it comes to discussing Oppenheimer. I mean, it's my Best Picture pick of the year, and I'm so excited that it's actually winning Best Picture. I mean, this is not a predictions video, but I'm really happy this film is winning Best Picture. So, yeah. And so then we get to Best Directing. All right, well, we have Justine Triet for Anatomy of a Fall, Martin Scorsese for Killers of the Flower Moon, Christopher Nolan for Oppenheimer, Yorgos Lanthimos for Poor Things, and Jonathan Glazer for The Zone of Interest. I would pick Christopher Nolan, Oppenheimer, easy. I mean, it's like, oh my God, like he should have multiple Oscars on his mantle by now. But at least he's getting it this year, and it's not because he's overdoing anything. I legitimately think he did the best job directing this year. If it weren't going to go to Christopher Nolan, which it better go to Christopher Nolan, then, you know, my second place pick would be The Zone of Interest. I'm not going to go through all these and say, oh, what's my 1 through 5, but it's like, I'm just letting you know what's going to be like my number 1 pick, and maybe my number 2 pick if something else were to happen. But yeah. Best Actress, my pick would actually be Lily Gladstone for Killers of the Flower Moon. I thought she was just, like, so, like, her performance was kind of subtle, but my God, like, there was so much in those eyes, so much in, like, the look in her face, and even, yeah, she doesn't have a lot of screen time, but that doesn't really bother me, because it still felt like she was a lead in that film, and not really supporting. If she did go supporting, I could see why. But I do see, whenever I think of Killers of the Flower Moon, I really do think of Lily Gladstone. Like, she really does stick out in that film. If not her, then probably Emma Stone for Poor Things. I didn't like Poor Things, but I thought she was pretty good at, like, no, not pretty good. She was very good in it, but I am really rooting for Lily Gladstone. Actor in a leading role. Not gonna lie, this is really tough between Bradley Cooper and Cillian Murphy. Because, look, I don't care. Bradley Cooper was phenomenal in Maestro. The fact that that Bradley Cooper has gotten so much hate, like, over these past couple months, just for, like, Maestro existing. It's like, my God, people, like, get a life. Like, he hasn't done anything wrong. It's like, his worst crime is like, enjoying his work too much. It's like, it's so dumb. I almost want him to win just to spite these idiots. But that's not what my vote would be. My vote would still be Cillian Murphy for Oppenheimer. Although, again, if Bradley Cooper won, I wouldn't complain. I think it's a very deserving performance. Like, I would be equally happy, honestly, because, again, they're so close together in terms of my preference. But I would probably go with Cillian Murphy because he is the face of Oppenheimer, and he has to carry this whole film on his back, considering he's in almost every scene. And so I really do appreciate that, especially with, like, just the looks in his face. It's subtle, but not too subtle. It's not so subtle to where you can't read anything off of his face. Like, it's very showy and subtle at the same time. Then we get to supporting actress. Divine Joy Randolph is sweeping. All right, she is absolutely sweeping the season. But weirdly enough, my vote would actually be Danielle Brooks for The Color Purple. I thought she stole the show in that film. Showed so much range, like, managing to be both the heart and the comedic, relief in the film in a way. I thought she absolutely crushed it in that film. And she had to do so much in that movie. So yeah, I would definitely say that Danielle Brooks would be my pick to win. Although, again, if Divine Joy Randolph, she'd be my number 2. Supporting actor. Again, just like how I didn't go with a sweeper with supporting actress, my supporting actor pick would actually be Ryan Gosling in Barbie. Now again, I'm not gonna complain about Robert Downey Jr. In fact, he's my number 2 pick. But Ryan Gosling brought something to for one, with with him as Ken. Like, I've never seen Ryan Gosling like this before. I mean, I've seen him in comedies. He's never been this ridiculous before. But it's it's weirdly transformative in a way, where it's he's just doing something completely outside of what he does. And I really do feel like comedy does get overshadowed at the Oscars a lot. I still think Maria Bakalova should have won supporting actress for Borat's subsequent movie film. But again, my reasoning for voting for Ryan Gosling is not because I feel like comedy's overlooked. I just feel like he really brought something to the table that shocked me way more than any of the other actors. And doing the most the most of a different performance. Then we get to original screenplay, all right, where I keep forgetting to read off the nominees, but the nominees here are Anatomy of a Fall, The Holdovers, Maestro, May December, and Past Lives. And I think my pick would be The Holdovers. Yeah, The Holdovers would probably be my pick here. I mean, the dialogue is really snappy, really funny, really clever, really heartfelt. Admittedly, with my number 2 pick, it's interesting because I'm kind of flip-flopping back and forth between Anatomy of a Fall and Past Lives. Although with Past Lives is again, I really do think about the film and how it's directed a lot. I mean, the dialogue is really good, but it's which one do I feel is a stronger screenplay contender? And I don't know, maybe Anatomy of a Fall might be my number 2 pick, even though I think Past Lives is overall a better film. Because again, I think Past Lives might be higher up in my list because because of its direction rather than writing. Again, its writing is still fantastic, but I don't know. But The Holdovers would still be my number 1 pick, so yeah. Then we get to adapted screenplay, where the nominees are American Fiction, Barbie, Oppenheimer, Poor Things, The Zone of Interest. No Killers of the Flower Moon, which is interesting. But however, which one would I pick here? Honestly, I would pick Oppenheimer for adapted screenplay. Its screenplay is so fascinating, so unique. Again, the colored scenes with Oppenheimer are in the first perspective, so we actually do go into his head in the screenplay. It's so the way it jumps through timelines in such a precise manner, I think is just it's just a feat of writing. And so I would probably pick Oppenheimer for Best Adapted Screenplay, because again, it's not always about the dialogue, even though the dialogue is still very good, but it's also the way the screenplay describes things in Oppenheimer is so fascinating. Then we get to cinematography, where the nominees are El Conde, Killers of the Flower Moon, Maestro, Oppenheimer, Poor Things. All of these fantastic choices, really great choices. I'd still probably go for Oppenheimer. I mean, my God, again, the cinematography is just gigantic in that film. It's so showy in the best way possible. If there were a number 2 pick, probably Maestro. Maestro has some, just beautiful cinematography. But yeah. Then we get to film editing, where we have Anatomy of a Fall, The Holdovers, Killers of the Flower Moon, Oppenheimer, Poor Things. This is a hot take. I wouldn't nominate Poor Things for film editing because, I mean, if I found the movie to be very boring and very badly paced, that's kind of an editing problem. So, that's out of there for me. But my pick would be Oppenheimer. Again, it's just doing so much with the editing that I just love seeing in movies. If not this, this is tough. Because would I go for Anatomy of a Fall or Killers of the Flower Moon? Because Killers of the Flower Moon manages to take 3.5 hours and make it not feel that way. Although Oppenheimer does that with 3 hours, so there's that. Anatomy of a Fall is really clever with its editing. So maybe that's my number 2. Production design. We have Barbie, Killers of the Flower Moon, Napoleon, Oppenheimer, Poor Things. These are all great nominees for production design. But which one would I pick for production design? Honestly, probably Barbie. I mean, My God, like it's so fascinating to see how like they actually made Barbie Land, but it's also like really funny in how it's designed. And it's like simple yet also very much detailed. Absolutely wonderful production designing. That would be my pick. What would be number two? I guess Poor Things would be number two, because Poor Things does have some very impressive sets. Napoleon, I was originally wondering, wait, why did Napoleon get a production design nomination? But then I saw Napoleon and I was like, oh wait, this movie's like 2.5 hours long and the sets are gigantic. They are so fucking huge. So yeah, like Napoleon has some excellent production design, but my pick would probably be Barbie. Costume design. We have Barbie, Killers of the Flower Moon, Napoleon, Oppenheimer, Poor Things. I just realized these are the exact same nominees we have in production design. Once again, I'd probably go for Barbie. It's like, again, the costumes are just really fun to look at. Like they're really fun, really clever, and you could actually see these being on Barbie dolls, like, and Ken dolls. Like they're all so great. If not these, ooh, it's tough because Napoleon has some great costumes, but also Poor Things has some great costumes. My God, this is and like the costumes in Napoleon are especially detailed. Like my God, like you can literally see the stitching, and I mean that in a good way. I don't know what would be my number two pick. I guess it would probably maybe be Napoleon, but regardless, Barbie is my number one. Then we get to makeup and hairstyling, where we have Golda, Maestro, Oppenheimer, Poor Things, and Society of the Snow. Sadly, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 isn't on here, so that can't be my pick. So I guess I'd probably go with Maestro. Like, now granted, Golda has some great makeup as well. I just watched that. I mean, it's kind of an movie, but, you know, I thought, you know, the makeup was pretty phenomenal in that film. And Society of the Snow also has, I think, some of the best makeup of the year. Like, my God, it is, like, the makeup is actually terrifyingly realistic. But with Maestro, it's like, I mean, come on. I mean, like, they did a great job with making Bradley Cooper look old by the end. It's very, very, very well done. I just wish Guardians 3 was here because I thought that was the most imaginative makeup of the year. Then we get to visual effects. We have The Creator, Godzilla Minus One, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, and Napoleon. My vote would easily be The Creator. Easily. Like, I don't care about Godzilla Minus One's, you know, narrative behind the visual effects. It does not deserve the award. It does not deserve to win, people. When you actually look at the movie, the effects are very hit or miss. Like, sometimes, like, there are points in the movie where, like, you can literally count the pixels on Godzilla. It doesn't all look that great. Again, people are really only wanting to vote for Godzilla because they love the movie that much. And look, yeah, out of the movies here, Godzilla Minus One is easily the best. Easily, but it does not have the best visual effects of the year. It is so The Creator. And even then The Creator still did a lot with a relatively smaller budget. Like with like $80 million, and this stuff looks this flawless, and yet there's still a lot of it. Like, come on, people. The Creator so deserves this over Godzilla. Like, it's best visual effects, not best movie with visual effects. Or best story behind the visual effects. Like, come on. It's, like, The Creator absolutely deserves to win this. No question whatsoever. If I had a number two pick, it would actually be Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. It's the second most consistent out of these films. I mean, you know, again, I'd probably shortlist Godzilla and Napoleon, but in terms of, like, the actual visual effects achievements, like, you know, The Creator and Guardians 3 are kind of unparalleled in this category. Best sound, we have The Creator, Maestro, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, Oppenheimer, and The Zone of Interest. Very good nominees overall. I don't think I would nominate Mission Impossible, though. Although I'm not exactly sure what I would nominate over it. Because in my Hannahcast Movie Awards, which I'm probably going to try to get onto that pretty quickly after I see a few more films, I do have sound editing and mixing separated in those categories, so let me check. Oh yeah, I'd have Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse replacing Mission Impossible. But which one would I pick to win? It would be Oppenheimer. I mean, my God, the sound in that, like, how that film has a sound extravaganza. It is insane. And it's not even just like the big explosions in the film. It's like even like the more subtler nuances of sound. Like, like the uses of silence and all that stuff. Like all that is done so well. If I had a number 2 pick, it's tough between the creator and the zone of interest. I'd probably go with the zone of interest at number 2, because I thought, how like the sound, the sound mixing in that film, and like how it's just like all these screams and gunshots are just silently in the background, and it's just like you can't just ignore that. It's done so well, people. Best original score is interesting because we have American Fiction, Indiana Jones, The Dial of Destiny, Killers of the Flower Moon, Oppenheimer, and Poor Things. Weirdly enough, I think Oppenheimer and Poor Things are the only films I'd nominate here. I'd consider Killers of the Flower Moon, but American Fiction, I don't even remember the score in that film, and neither do I remember the score of Indiana Jones, The Dial of Destiny. And this is coming from someone who would nominate the Star Wars sequels for Best Original Score. Like, I would still do it with The Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker, because I can remember some of those tunes in those films. I couldn't tell you one bit of original score in Indiana Jones. Like, I genuinely could not. So, yeah, my pick would be Oppenheimer. It's not even close. A lot of my other picks that could be in contention to win aren't even nominated, like Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse or Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem. It's just like they're just not here. So, yeah, it would be Oppenheimer. Next, we have original song, in which we have The Fire Inside from Flamin' Hot, I'm Just Ken from Barbie, It Never Went Away from American Symphony, Wasage, A Song for My People from Killers of the Flower Moon, and What Was I Made For from Barbie. Once again, this is very, very easy for me. I would vote for I'm Just Ken. That film, that song is the song of the year. Like, my God, it's so funny. Like, it actually does have, it's actually in the movie. It's not just some credit song. It's actually in the movie. I'm Just Ken is just fantastic. Ryan Gosling plays it in such a playful way. It's like, even like the choreography of that song is so goofy and silly. I love it. Like, I love that stuff so much. And then finally, if I'm not mistaken, this is the final one I'm going to be talking about, Best Animated Feature Film, in which we have The Boy and the Heron, Elemental, Nimona, Robot Dreams, and Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. I finally saw Robot Dreams. Great movie. Love Robot Dreams. That movie's great. You just swap out Elemental with Ninja Turtles, and then we have a perfect category. But, however, which one of these would be my pick? It would probably be Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Actually, no, what? No, actually, what am I saying probably? It's easily Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. It's not even a competition. Like, my God, I think it's the second best film of the year overall. And so, that it should be winning this in the handbasket. Now, granted, whether or not it is going to win, well, you're going to have to wait till my predictions video coming up in just a few days to find that out. But yeah, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse would be my vote for Best Animated Feature. Now, which one would be my number 2? I probably The Boy and the Heron, maybe. I mean, it's definitely a theatrical experience. I don't think I'd ever want to watch it at home. But like just watching it in the theater was so fascinating. Just really taking all of it in. So yeah, I guess that would be my pick. For at least my number 2 pick. And those are my picks if I were an Oscar voter. Now, like I said, I wasn't able to talk about the documentaries, the short films, or the international films because I haven't really seen all those yet, and I don't really think it'd be fair to you guys if I just blindly voted for things I didn't even really know anything about. So, yeah, now I'm going to pass the question off to you. What are your picks if you were indeed an Oscar voter? Let me know in the comments below what you think, and consider hitting that subscribe button, because if you don't, you'll never vote in the Oscars.